It is currently 12:37 on a Sunday. My midterm is at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We're back at it, people. Alright, I'm not even gonna lie. I've literally been watching Legends of Korra for like the past hour. Yeah. Good morning, baby. Good morning, Louie. I just put a hoodie on because it was cold inside, but god damn, it's hot in Texas right now. Literally this entire week has been a heat stroke warning. It's been like over 100 degrees. Fun fact, we still have our Christmas decorations up for some reason. Asian people. Alright, it's too hot. I can't do this. I need to go outside. Also, I asked my mom to buy creamer for coffee, but she just brought home these little ones from her restaurant. Alright gang, so it's been a minute since I've checked in here, especially with a study with me video. For some reason, people seem to enjoy watching me procrastinate and try and cram everything in at the last minute. So get ready, these next 24 hours are going to be pretty brutal. But the reason I'm taking a midterm is I'm actually taking a summer course at Yale University. The reason I had to take a summer course is, if you didn't know, my study abroad program got canceled. So basically, I didn't take any classes. I was behind on a few credits in order for me to graduate on time. The course has been alright so far. It's pretty intensive given that it's only 5 weeks long and we've only had 4 lectures before the midterm. So part of me feels like there's just not enough content to be covered for a midterm, but at the same time we've also covered so much stuff that like I have no idea what's really going to be on this test. But yeah, the reason I'm making coffee and the reason I'm starting so late is that last night my friends had a little birthday party planned for me because I wasn't in town for my birthday celebration. So let's just say that this morning was a little bit rough. I don't want to do this shit, bro. Come on. Come here. Good boy. Look at him go. Run, Louis. Run, run. Louis has officially mastered going up the stairs. His only problem is he can't go back down. Materials for today's study sesh are going to be the textbook. It's actually just a regular book, the laptop, and then the iPad Pro. Alright, so if you've seen these videos before, then I'm sure some of these techniques aren't going to be new to you. However, if this is your first time watching me try to cram something in 24 hours, I'll give you the rundown of how I like to do things. First off, I'm going to be reading over the notes, which I actually already did yesterday. But before I get into any practice problems or sample midterms, I think it's best to just go over all the information that you already learned. Make sure that you know what the definitions mean, that the example problems aren't too hard for you to solve on your own. And that just gives you a good foundation before you try to dive into anything else. Because if you don't understand the fundamentals of what you're trying to study for, then there's really no point in studying. So starting from the beginning, I'm gonna just go through all the notes, and yeah, that's gonna be a bitch. Course I'm taking at Yale University is a course called Game Theory. Now, Game Theory is a pretty popular course, not only in economics, but it's just a relevant topic that a lot of people study regardless of the type of major you're in. The whole concept of game theory is trying to figure out which strategy is going to be the best response when playing a strategic game against other players, whether in terms of business where you're trying to figure out what the best strategy is to launch a new product, or in stock markets where you're trying to analyze the fluctuation of prices. So the book that's our textbook for this course is actually just like a regular novel. It's pretty interesting, but it's called The Art of Strategy, a game theorist's guide to success in business and life. And I don't usually do this in my videos because the topics or the concepts that I'm covering are just not very relatable or interesting for me to relay. However, game theory is something that could be of particular interest to many of you guys regardless of your majors. So the best way that I can summarize a good example of what game theory is through an example called the prisoner's dilemma. And I'm sure many of you guys have probably heard some iterations of this and seen some examples, but I think this book does a pretty good job of summarizing it. This situation is called a prisoner's dilemma because both sides are led to take an
action that is against their mutual interest. In the classic version of the prisoner's dilemma, the police are separately interrogating two suspects. Each is given an incentive to be the first to confess and a much harsher sentence if he holds out while the other confesses. Thus, each finds it advantageous to confess, though they would both do better if each kept quiet. So that's a pretty good example of what the prisoner's dilemma is, because if you're given an incentive to rat on someone else and you aren't given the ability to communicate, you really have to figure out what's going to be the best response, regardless of whether or not you know what the other player is going to do.
Alright, so I've slowly been training Louis to come down the stairs so he can go to the bathroom when he needs. He's getting there. He can go like halfway down the stairs. So come on, Louis. Let's show him for the camera, alright? You got this. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. Yay. Good job, Louis. Yay. Yay. Good job. Louis, you're so smart. Louis, so smart. Puppy training, success. Now he just needs to go all the way down the stairs. Good boy. Hey. He's outrunning his old man. Leave it. Leave it. No. Leave it. Go get it. Hey. Alright, so the game plan so far is I've gone over my notes and got a decent overview of everything that's going to be on the midterm. Next up, I'm going to review the problem sets. So we've had 2 problem sets that we've done so far. They have solutions posted, so I'm going to try and go through and review those, make sure that I understand how they got to those answers and that I can solve them on my own. And finally, there's a sample midterm with the solutions and a recording of how they came to those answers. So that last thing is probably going to be the best tool for me to make sure that I am ready for this midterm. Alright, now that you guys understand what the concept of game theory is, hopefully you guys are going to be able to comprehend this video a little bit more, as well as actually play this game with me, because I'm looking through the sample midterm right now. The first question is honestly not too hard for a novice game theory player, so I will try my best to explain the concepts as I go, and you guys can play along with me and we can try and figure out the solution together. Alright, so the prompt for the first question says find all the Nash equilibria in this 4x4 game. And essentially 4x4 games means that there are 2 players with 4x4 different actions. And in any sort of game there is the row player. In this instance it's going to be anything with the lowercase letters, and there's also the column player, which are going to be the capital letters. Now essentially the payouts or the utility that you're going to gain from winning the game are listed in the numbers provided. So the first number is going to go to the row player, the second number is going to go to the column player. So for example, in our matrix, the very first column has a payoff of 5-0, meaning that the row player is going to get a payoff of 5. The column player will get a payoff of 0 if they choose the selection. Now the question asks us to find the Nash equilibrium, and the Nash equilibrium is actually named after John Nash, who was a very famous game theorist, economist, and mathematician who did graduate from Princeton University, and they made a movie on his life called A Beautiful Mind, which is a great film. I highly recommend watching it if you're interested in game theory. But essentially Nash equilibrium is a strategy in which no player can play another hand to increase their chances of winning. So it's a lot easier in practice than just me saying the concept, so let's just run through this game right now. Alright, so right off the bat, I'm going to start as the row player because I think this is just a little bit easier for me to comprehend the matrix. So first off, I'm going to choose a different color so I can identify the row player payoffs, which are going to be 5, 9, 3, 1, 6, 6, 1, 3, 4, 15, 7, 4. You get the idea. And essentially, I'm going to be looking across the row and determining whether or not A, B, C, or D is going to be better than the previous option. So if I look at row A, and I'm talking lowercase letters, the payoff of 5 is 6, B is greater, 9 is greater than 6, 3 is greater than 1, 1 is greater than 3. So you can't eliminate between A and B. If I look at A and C, 5 is greater than 4, 9 is greater than 15, 3 is less than 7, 1 is greater than 0. You can't eliminate C either. 5 is less than 8, 9 is greater than 5, 3 is greater than 0, 1 is greater than 0. Alright, so right off the bat, there are no strategies that I can eliminate right away. Therefore, I'm going to move over to the column player. Likewise, you're going to be looking at the second number to determine their playoffs and comparing it in the column. So A and B, so 2 is greater than 0, 6 is less than 12, 1 is less than 2, 7 is greater than 4. Can't really determine anything there. 5 is greater than 0, 2 is less than 12, 4 is greater than 2, 3 is less than 4. Nothing there either. No, I don't even know if I can do that. Alright, I'm a little stuck right now. What do you guys think I should do? If only this was a live interactive YouTube content. Once I figure this solution out, I will get back to you. I'm on my last question of the sample midterm. Tomorrow there's only going to be 3 questions, so that alleviates a little bit of stress knowing that there's only so much that I can solve, and it's not something that's like a final, which is going to have a lot more questions. Definitely the fact that I have a TA who has solved this exact midterm and provides their explanations is super helpful. It's actually one of the benefits of having an online class, and I think moving forward it's going to be a really useful tool to have recorded Zoom lectures, is that you can go at your own pace, you can pause and stop to think along the way, unlike traditional lectures or office hours where they're just moving at one pace and there's not a lot of time to actually process the information, understand how they came to that, and also work it out yourself before seeing the answer. You can also rewind if you want to go back and just review it one more time to make sure that it soaks into your brain. So yeah, it's one of the silver linings of online teaching, and I think moving forward it's just going to continue to improve. Professors and TAs are just going to find better ways to facilitate this learning mechanism, because obviously a downside is that it's recorded. I didn't actually attend the Zoom lecture, so the fact that if I don't understand something along the way, I can't just ask a question during lectures. So there's pros and cons, but we're trying to figure it out as we go. Back to work. Honestly, I've been grinding at this for like 3 hours now, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Alright, today is a day Louis walks all the way down the stairs.
Come on, just take this first step, I promise. Overcome your fears, child. Just take one step.
It's right there. It's right there.
Anytime, just the first step. Alright, we're leaving.
Bye.
Bye. He's doing it. Louis, come on! Louis, come on! Louis, come on! Louis, come here! Louis, come here! Good boy! Good boy! Wow! Louis, you're almost there, come on! Louis! Yay! Good boy, Louis. Eat all you want.
Alexa, turn on plug 3. Alright, the time is currently almost 7 p.m. That gives me roughly around 2 more hours. But the most effective way I'm going to be using this time is to just go over the practice problem sets that they provided the solutions to, and understanding the explanation as well as how they got to the solution is going to be one of the best ways for me to tackle the test tomorrow, because I guarantee that they're going to use some variation similar to the problems that they already showed in the problem set or in the sample midterm. That's honestly a huge strategy, is a lot of professors will just kind of tweak some of the sample questions that they offer you just to make sure you're not caught off guard. Hopefully that's the case. But right now I'm just going to run through the rest of these practice problems, and yeah, that might be the best way for me to prepare tomorrow. Alright, I've basically done everything I could to prepare up to this point. I've gone over all the review lecture slides, I've done the practice problems, so honestly that should have me pretty set for tomorrow's midterm. Like I said, there's only been 4 lectures, each one of them is 3 hours long, so only about 12 hours of content, but overall I definitely think it's going to be doable. It's only a 3-hour midterm with 3 questions, so that should definitely be plenty of time. Another thing that I've learned along the way is that this course is taught at Yale compared to every other college course I've taken at Princeton, so there have been a few similarities. There's also been a few differences. I'll probably make another video talking about that more in detail, but right off the bat I think the style of the lecture is honestly pretty similar to every other economics course I've taken. I definitely think the professor knows what he's talking about, as I'm sure he's taught this course plenty of times, but the fact that it's a summer course really blows, because obviously this is the only class I'm taking and I'd obviously much rather be hanging out with my friends or just watching Netflix, but the fact that I have to do this during the summer is a bummer. Oh, that kind of rhymed. But honestly I'm probably gonna wrap it up, get a good night's sleep, and hit the exam ready. It is at 8 a.m., which is a little bit earlier than actually any course I've taken in college, but I'm sure hopefully that I should be able to wake up on time. But that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed another cram session with Nick Chae. For some reason these videos always tend to do pretty well. I'm assuming it's because people just like to see other people struggle in a time crunch. But yeah, if you enjoyed this one, make sure to drop a like down below. If you guys haven't seen our previous videos, I've done one cramming for a final in 24 hours or 3 midterms in 72 hours. They will also be linked in the description down below. Don't forget to subscribe and wish me luck on this midterm. Peace. Alright, so I just went through the recording that the TA provided of how he came to the solution, and it was actually
A little bit more complicated than I thought. It's not as straightforward as I initially assumed the question to be, and I figured out how to solve it, so I'll walk you guys through the steps. Essentially, my first strategy was to see if there was any pure dominant strategy just by looking at the different payoffs and see if one row could outweigh the other. But given the fact that that didn't work for every single number, you have to move over to a mixed strategy, which is essentially where you place different amounts of weight on different rows to see whether or not it's going to be greater. We're going to see that B is eliminated by 0.25C plus 0.75D, which essentially means that you can eliminate row B because if you take the weighted averages of those numbers, 0.25 times 4 plus 0.75 times 8 is going to equal 7, which is going to be greater than 6. And you can repeat that for every single number to see that B is going to be dominated by C and D. Once you've eliminated that row, you just repeat the strategy. So row A is going to be eliminated by 0.5C plus 0.5D because half of 4 plus half of 8 is going to equal 6, which is going to be greater than 5. You basically just repeat this process, and every time you delete a row or column, and it gets you closer to finding a single Nash equilibrium. Now once you get down to this final 2x2 matrix, it's actually a lot simpler, and you can go back to my original strategy and see that 15 is obviously greater than 5 and 7 is greater than 0, so you can automatically eliminate row D. Now you're left with your final two options, and the Nash equilibrium is actually going to be 7, 4. And the reason being is that 4 is greater than 1. Although 15 is greater than 7, you can check your correct answer by going back to the original matrix. So if you go back to the original matrix and choose our Nash equilibrium of CC, if you look at the number 7, it's obviously greater than 1, it's greater than 3, and greater than 0, meaning that there is no better response that the row player can play. If you look at the column player whose payoffs are 4, this is obviously greater than 2, 1, and 2, meaning that there is no better response that either player can play and get a better outcome, meaning that 7, 4 is going to be our Nash equilibrium. Now, I hope that made sense and you guys were able to follow along. If you solved it on your own, congratulations, you're a little bit smarter than me. Welcome to game 3, folks.